Hey guys, welcome to episode 12. Glad you've been watching. And as always, like, subscribe, share. It helps keep this going. And I get more ideas that way. People send in comments and suggestions. So please um, like, subscribe, share it, click the bell, those kinds of things, so that and provide comments so that I can continue. Episode 12 is finishing up sandblasting the doors and doing some prep work on the doors and kind of explaining what I've done for the repairs and to get it ready for the rough in. Talking a little bit about the door gaps and some of that stuff. So take an opportunity to look at episode 12, and then also the at the end of this episode I have a surprise. I found a frame. I'm not going to go with a Toyota or a Mitsubishi or whatever. I'm not going to go with a modern chassis, and the whole highway cruiser thing is beginning to go out of the window as you go through this episode. And then the next one, I find a different engine too. So keep it up, keep watching. Thanks, guys. All right, here we are again. Oh yeah, we're up and going. Working on the doors, sandblasting them. And I took some time yesterday to kind of walk around and address each door. So I'm going to kind of step through it. So there's a little relief right there. A relief right there. And if I match that up to it's right, pardon me. Oh, it's a relief right in this area. Okay. That does not follow this taper. It's a break in the taper, and then the taper continues. That taper being a taper down the door. In the stamping, they relieved this out at the latch height. At the latch, not the handle height, but the center of the latch on the original door, which happens to be very similar to the placement of the latch here on the new door. We can see on the jamb, this is the original jamb cut off and welded to a 2-inch post. But that there was a relief here, and there was a rubber bumper in there, or some form of stop or mechanism for the latch to clear. More than likely that was for the latch to clear. Yeah, that was for the latch to clear because the catch was on this side. That's correct. This is a bumper. This is a bumper. At this moment, I don't remember what that was. Oh, I know what that was. That was there was a guide. Underneath the latch. So needless to say, in this area then, I will want to fill. And then again, this is where that, if I can get my phone, this is where I cut off that guide and then ran a bead of weld in there. And then you can see the weld here and here, and then I cut it or ground it down. And then this is tapered down this direction and then this direction. So, and then that pitch continues on down the door. So in theory, I should be able to run that pitch all the way up. On the sandblasted door, I began using fiber fill. And again, all I'm doing is getting the basic shape, but I've got that done and I do not have this relief done. So I want to, again, that carries down now all the way down the door where the door skin was welded on. This was a parting line. There's the overlay. Right there is a little small void or impression in the weld. wrapping around, and you can kind of see the transition of the two materials. It's difficult because it's blasted and all that stuff. So now there's a little bit down here to carry that taper down as it walks all the way up. This will need fiberglass fill. I'll take some 36 grit and just grind and grind and grind to get a good adhesion. These are the new latch mechanisms. There's a weld right here. I'll probably just clean that corner up. This is just debris right here, not a hole. I'll get in there and clean that out. Of course, this covers that weld seam. Everything else is straight. There looks to be a very minor. Clean that up. So I'll put a little bit of fiberglass right there. And again, I'm not trying to achieve the finish. I'm trying to achieve the flat door area, a flat jamb to make it look like a stamping. Looking at the top with the outside toward me, this is in very good shape. But once this is sandblasted, I'll clean all of that out. Comparatively, this one had a considerable amount of repair. This door was jacked and laying in the field, but I have cleaned that up. I have a little bit of fiberglass to put into the trough here because there's significant hammer-on dolly work down in there. You can see a low spot right here. Not a concern. I'm just creating the floor. Again, just creating the floor. Then finally on the back side, this is where we welded up the hinges, ground and plugged the bolt holes, and the same thing down here. And then of course I forgot to do that, so I'll have to weld in a little piece there. You can see this slowly makes its way down to a small ledge right here, and that will be filled, and we will again copy this taper all the way down, filling this depression, copying it all the way down. Okay. Conversely, then we'll look at the nearly finished door. And here we can see where I've done that. At the top, filled, that's where the bolt holes were for the latch. There's some deformation on the metal, so I just started crowning and touching metal there. Stop sanding. Same thing here. Built that ledge into where the original hinge pocket was. You can see the faint hint of where the hinge pocket was welded over. Coming down, again, this door was completely damaged, but it's been all welded up, so it did need a small amount of fiberglass coming all the way down to reconstruct it. Coming down to the bottom hinge pocket, the relief filled, putting the channel back in, putting the taper on, and then of course down into the radius to the bottom section of the door. That is all roughed in now. With the fiberglass material, I still have a little bit more work like we saw earlier on this side of the door. Then I'm going to get in there, and if I need to hit it with a blaster again, this was hard to do because this was aged hard. Hard is not the correct statement, but I mean, I can obviously get on there with a grinder too if I need to and clean that up. On the Showa side, we got some shadowing, but she cleaned up really good. I'll just hit it with the dual action sander. I got a lot of marks on it from sliding it around on these, but I need to transition to putting some of that material on here, something on here to protect it. And then I've got a little bit of fiberglass work in the areas that I've welded up. This corner had to be rebuilt. That corner had to be rebuilt. That radius had to be rebuilt. I've still got a bullet hole to patch there. And this top section about half of it had to be reconstructed. So to that end, we are making some progress. The plan is to shoot into this weekend and hopefully have, well, at least the 2 rear doors, but ideally all 4 doors in epoxy primer and dressed, roughed in, and ready to mount and start back on the project. Of course, I've already done all the alignment. I've already done the preliminary door gapping, so on and so forth. Now I'll have to construct the jamb, the gaps in the jamb, but I think I want to finish cutting all the top in, cut it in, guide it, and just put a coat up, make sure that I at least get the bare metal covered in all areas with epoxy primer, finish out the cowl, and then I have to come and finish. I'm going to, of course, get rid of all this stuff, chop these off, and start the door hanging the doors, putting the weather stripping sections on to hold the doors out, and then starting the side blocking. So I'll be onto the side and the rear, and going to focus on getting the chassis purchased, the roof skin decision made, so that I can begin finishing out the body to the point of feather fill. Okay. There's where we are, and hopefully a lot more video coming this weekend. I keep saying hopefully because I keep getting wrapped into one thing or another, but I talked to Sweetie today, and it looks like she wants to lay low this weekend, so more than likely I'll be out here in the shop. Later. Hey guys. Well, door flipped over, which means good things, right? Got the entire side finished with the divots, finished with the fiberglass fill. Okay, finished with the fiberglass fill. That's just finding the new floor, if you will, for the sheet metal. So in here you can see that when I welded this in, I had a little bit of shrinkage in here. You know, we got our couple of high spots, and it's banding down. It feels really good. So I got all my welds covered in fiberglass, took them down with 40, and then I just blocked the door with 80. But this is, if you remember, this is the door that was bent. This thing was jacked, and I had to take the frame apart and re-straighten the frame to get that crisp, sharp edge on both sides, right? So that's done. It does have, I mean, there's a little bit of a dent right here, and everything else that remains, you know, obviously that still feels a little high. I might have to ting that just a little bit. But the reality is right now that the door blocked out to find kind of the new floor, if you will. It should be ready now after I properly clean it and get after all of the sand sitting in it and all that kind of a thing. Clean it out really good. Wipe her down with wax and grease remover, and then come on in and start shooting it with the epoxy primer. Set it aside and start on the next door. So it's a slow process because doors have so many curves and in general features that it's just very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to get in and get everything done quickly. I kind of, in a sense, regretted this project because of the amount of time that goes into just getting them ready for prep for fill. But fortunately, the thing went together good. The car hammered out is best I can get it anyway. And now I'm ready to start the finishing work. So we'll get her sprayed. We'll get her sandblasted. Hopefully I can get all the doors done this weekend. Today is Wednesday. I only get an hour or two each night, and sometimes an hour in the morning, depending on when I wake up, to kind of just try to get after it and get elements and pieces and bits done. My biggest concern doing it during the week though, and this was an example, I should have done a quick video, but well, you remember after sandblast and the flash rust that was on it. So I did a lot of heavy lifting here, if you will, with blocking and stuff to make sure that I get a shiny door in the end. When I flip it over, I will hit the whole thing. Okay, I'll hit this with the DA, okay? When I'm ready to clean it, blow it off, vacuum it out, blah, 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 blah. Hit it with the DA. Hit the whole thing with 80 grit and the DA. Feather any edges that need to be feathered. I'm not looking for bodywork finish. I'm looking to get it feathered and get any remnants of rust or flash rust off of it. Go around the outside, go around the back side, go around the interior side. Hit it good and hard. Hit it with epoxy primer. Spray as much as I can onto the inside of the door. In between the two door cavities here, inside. Spray as much as I can in there. I blasted as much as I could in there. And then I'm going to come back, of course, then with pick a box liner. This dirty stuff right here, and a roller and a stick, and I'm going to roll that whole thing up and then come in there with a brush and maybe tuck it first with a brush to get all the areas. I can get an aerosol with some sprayable undercoating, for inside frame spray, that kind of stuff, but I want to get as much of that coated as possible, and of course get on the interior side of this weld is my primary concern, is to get any of the weld rolled over. This was seamed right in this area here, where this goes across the halves as it go into the jamb, and then there were bullet holes in the door that were filled here and here and here, and when those were filled, obviously there's weld. So I want to get them sealed on both sides. That's why I got the fiberglass on this side. And we'll have a sealant like a box liner on the other side, along with the epoxy, but on the other side. So there you have it. Getting close, very confident. Of course, this guy is going to be ready for spray. I might leave it just a little dusty right now, and tomorrow morning if I do get up, it's getting a little bit late. It's dark outside. Maybe start blasting the jam or something that's intense. I always like to start with the most intricate hard stuff, so the home run feels a little easier when you're getting there. And then rather than mixing up a bunch of paint, a small amount of paint, waste, try to spray out everything, but actually wind up wasting some. I can get some traction on that door, depending on how I feel, with all that. But basically, if I get these two doors sprayed, I'll have all the time in the world to be working on the other two doors. But by next week, then, if I have all four doors sprayed, I can start mounting them and then start jamming, mating my doors, aligning them, sealing them. I've said this 1,000 times, I think, in earlier videos. Seal them, and then do the jam match, and then can start blocking the whole the side of the car, so it looks like just a rock solid mirror, a slate flat surface down the side. Again, as I mentioned, before this car goes up though, while this is all curing out, finish the top to block it out, all the way through 80 grit, possibly 180 grit, but certainly through 80 grit for sure. Block out the cowl and then start on the body. Do have to do a run to the salvage yard to lock in on the frame. In this case, get a title. I told them that the condition was a title, and get the roof section. So I know that's a whole new set of circumstances there to get that welded in and properly looking right. But it's all coming. It's all coming, and I'm excited about it. All right, later. Well, it's been a little bit since I've done the videos. I do have the doors hung now. They're gapping out good. The front gap where I welded, probably was in a prior video, but where I welded up the cowl and put in the blind hinges, that gap gets a little bit wide. You can see that. So that'll need some fiber fill on the cowl side. The doors, of course, are all
shaved and straight, everything straight. This side, this was the massive repair for rust and all of that. And I got to close out a little bit on this guy. He's good, but he's about 1/8 of an inch bigger than I'd like him to be. So we'll get that all gapped out. This fender is just hanging on with 2 bolts, just getting him started. On the other side, I have the rear fender mounted with all the bolts in. I will make a fill panel. Again, these are 1933 fenders on the 31. So I had to trim around the shape of the body here. You're going around the lip and then around the curve. And here, I've got some trimming. I got to trim around the lip here yet. But once I push them in, you can see he's coming out. I got a little bit of a gap on the bottom there, but that's okay. It is fiberglass. But that closeout, how I'm going to close that out anyway, is going to be into the tail design, and I might actually come around with the band to tie into the bead where it maybe takes off and around there. That's kind of what they did. Anyway, and then I'll build a fill panel for the back. Whether I put the tank back here or not, I don't know yet. There or behind the rear seat. Here, gaps turned out really good. Across the board, except for right down in here. Don't know how I did this, but I got a little stretch from here to there. And that I'll probably have to and clean it up. But that's the way the project crumbles, right? That's the way stuff goes. But other than that, the doors, they're on. They latch just great. They sound good. Well, they sound good. All 4 doors. Everything works really good. So, really happy with the progress so far. And hopefully tomorrow I can get that fender mounted up and worry about getting the frame in the garage. I do have a frame for it, but still in the decision process. If I want to do this Toyota Tacoma frame or something different. So more than likely I'll do the Toyota Tacoma frame. Been getting some comments on taking 2 inches out of the top. Don't know yet. Still got to get it on the frame, decide if I'm widening it out, how much it's widening out, and then go from there. If it fits well under the frame, and I can get wheels with a 0 offset or some degree of setback, then I'd be happy. But at this point, slow progress because it's finished work, right? You got to get this stuff to fit and look right. So more later. Here we are. We're out at where they make cars into cubes on one side, and on the other side, over the cubes, they have a huge selection of U-Pull-It. So here we got a 1931 Plymouth. Round window. 31 was a year that they said an all metal body. There's still wood in it, but all these structures now, as compared to my 1930 Dodge, they have steel framing in tin, formed framing down the windows, down into the doors. The floor in this thing is just immaculate, but the rest of it is, she's pretty bad. That's just from being here for 40 years and sitting on top of stuff being rolled and everything else. However, the frame is immaculate. This entire frame is in spectacular shape. And so it's going to make the foundation for the 30 Dodge. So what? A little bit of straightening. No, both sides. Both sides. That's part of the forming. Anyway, gas tank's probably not any good, but everything else about this frame is in good shape. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the body bolts, the brackets for the running board. I'm going to try to keep the brackets just so I have a reference. Not that I'll use those particular brackets, but that I'll have a reference. The other side is pretty well hacked. Try to leave this cross member in here if I can. Of course, I won't be using the transmission, but leave the cross member in there for transporting it and getting dimensions off of it. I'm going to keep the fender braces. Yeah, they look like shit. Yeah, I get it, but they're references, all good reference points. So didn't have the axles on it, although they could be still in the ground over there, but not that worked up about that. Did pull the drive shaft off because I don't want to take that with me. I'll get the tranny off when I get closer to it as well. But at this point, just working the frame off, getting this side. Battery power went dead on my tools, so I loaded the truck up, and I'm gonna go and get some more tools, or some more battery and some more tools. So more on this later. All right, there it is. There it is. I grabbed the pedals. Don't know if I'm going to use them. I'm certainly going to use a steering column. We bent it, but there we have it. There's the cars. She's a thing of beauty. Anyway, we got a frame.